Welcome to Transformation with Martine. Conquer everything and compromise nothing. This show brings you real, raw, and vulnerable conversations. If you have never liked small talk and have been on a personal growth journey for a long time, stay tuned as Martine and her guests share empowering stories. Now is the time to own your past and look toward your future with hope. Believe in your dreams, and all that you want to achieve is possible. Transformation Coach Martine helps you accept and love you for you. It's time to listen to your heart and tap into your unlimited potential. You have the answers you need inside. Sometimes you just need the right guide to help allow transformation to happen. Transformation with Martine starts now.
Welcome, everyone, to Transformation with Martine. This is where we conquer everything and compromise nothing. Happy Friday, everyone. For those of you that don't know, my show is about hope, and the guests that I invite on my show are resilient beings, and we've overcome lots of stuff, and we're here to share our stories with you. And my show is every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and welcome. So my special guest today, she's been on a journey herself, quite the journey. Welcome, Morgan Rockwell.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
So what got you on a journey of transformation?
I have to say, it was probably one of the most tricky moments of my life, where I just found myself in a relationship where I was really unhappy and I was quite suffering. I didn't know what I was going to do about it. And we had children. And ultimately, I decided that divorce was the best support for me. But what came about was the fact that my boys were born in a foreign country. So being American in a foreign country, having kids with dual nationality, it left me a single mom in a foreign country where I could not hold a work visa. So I had to figure out pretty quickly, how was I going to make a life here for myself?
So tell us more about that. How do you find yourself? I mean, yes, the dual citizenship, I understand that. How do you find yourself not able to go home?
Yeah, that was really, I have to say that was shocking. And in hindsight, I probably could have seen it coming, because the minute you give birth to somebody in a country, like, that is their birth country, regardless of, dual nationality and them having American citizenship as well. Like, this is where they were born. But everything inside of me was just screaming, I want to go home, right? You want to go home to where is familiar, your family, your place of origin. And that really, having that moment spelled out for me as like a technicality rather than assuaging my emotions was like a shattering moment for me, because that's all I wanted. Yet I clearly understood why I could not.
Yeah. So, like, I guess, how do you come to a place of peace inside?
It has been a process. So I really had to accept that. My first step was just to accept that was what it was going to be, and come up with a plan of, okay, what was my next step? Where am I going to go within this country to make a new life for myself? And decide. I was living in a very small, countryside village almost. It was a very small city. And so I chose to move to a larger city where there was like a more expat community, and just some more familiar options. In larger cities in Europe, there's more, I don't want to say like American flavor, but it had a little bit more comforts, right? And then over the process, I really just started having to forgive how things transpired, because I had to acknowledge the things that were outside of my control. And over this last year, it's been about a year and a little, I've had to make peace with the country that I'm living in. I've just had to make peace with her.
Yeah. So without, the details, but like, can family come visit you?
Oh, absolutely. And so like,
Okay.
I'm not like prisoner here, right? So I have vacation. I can take my boys. We can go spend summers in the US. And really, like when you look at it, it's quite ridiculous the amount of time that I can spend outside of the country, yet I'm allowed to live here. So I feel like I have some freedom that way. The only caveat being is I can't interrupt their school year. At the moment, it's not a problem because they're very little, but that's going to shift starting next year when my oldest, starts to get into an actual, like the age of school. So, but yeah, so I feel like I have freedom and people can come to me. Yeah, it's just having to relocate my base and really like, okay, what is the next 15 years of my life going to look like? It's going to look extremely different than I had thought or maybe hoped.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, tell us your story. Like, how did you meet your ex-husband, and how did everything come to be,
Yeah.
and how did you find yourself in the country? Like,
Right. So it started out what like on paper it could be just this magical journey, right? Like I had taken this trip to Europe. I was exploring places that I could maybe spend 1 year and get like a work visa and just
yeah.
sort of just in a moment of my life where I wanted to just do something really different. And so on that travel, I was told that coming to Portugal, where I'm in now, I was able to have a work visa. They were looking for people bringing in alternative medicine into the country, and things like that. And so I ended up meeting him. I actually rented an apartment. He was an Airbnb host. And so
Okay.
I met him, and in a very European fashion, there was like a big family and friends lunch. And so it was just sort of a very casual gathering that I was invited to. And he and some other guests and I hit it off, and we've all kind of kept in touch. And so I ended up selling my business, and I was working on the information that Portugal would kind of help tick the box that I was hoping for. I could, spend this year and have a work visa and have a different experience. And then I could really kind of get serious and figure out where I wanted to move to in the US and, change states, things like that. And well, things transpired pretty quickly. We got pregnant. We ended up getting married. Everything just really kind of snowballed. The work visa information wasn't accurate. Still 6 years from now, I have not sorted that, or 6 years ago in the front, I have not sorted out the work visa. It's still not possible in integrative medicine. And it just became a situation for myself that I was so outside of my comfort zone. I did not even know what was happening around me. Too many changes too quickly, new languages, misinformation. Like, at what point do you stand up and say in all of the chaos, wait, this isn't what I wanted? Like, for me, that was too hard to find that voice and articulate it. It just kind of got rolled in with the snowball, I suppose.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I mean, I'm such a travel person, or wanting to see so much. I've got a lot of travel coming up and I'm really excited. Part of it just sounds so cool to me. Like, oh, wow, end up in Portugal and you get to stay there because it is a magical place. But the fact that you really can't do what you want is another whole ballgame.
Right. And so that was part of me having to get back into the idea, like, of all the places in the world I'm required to live, it still is a magical place. It is pretty much a paradise. It is one of the top travel destinations, right?
Yeah.
So having to get back in touch with those aspects of this country that are really beautiful, not just the landscape, but the cost of living, the ease of life, the smaller population, the fresh fish, like there's so many boxes in the pro column, right?
Yeah.
But when we do not have a choice or feel like we do not have a choice, it can make us feel stuck. And so I've had to really work against that feeling like prisoner or feeling held against my will type of situation. Does that make sense?
Just victim mode, like having to try to figure this out. Like, okay, well, what blessings are here? Why am I here? There's got to be a reason why I'm here. Did you go through like just kind of like what comes to my mind is almost like a grief journey, like there's so many different phases of it, and it sounds like this is the same.
It totally was like a grief journey. And especially because, like, number one, I'm so grateful that my boys get to grow up here. One, it has a very, very rich culture. Portuguese culture is really rich. and also European in general. So we have a lot of different experiences around us. The language for me is very difficult, but it's also one of the most beautiful languages for them to speak as a native tongue. And the kind of the safety and security of the schools, even at their age, is so different than what's happening in the US. So I was like really grateful. Like if I could pick a place to raise my kids, it was this. But what kept coming up for me, I was like, wow, this works out fabulous for my ex-husband. I mean, we still remain civil and friends to the most point. It's all about the boys. The boys are happy as can be. Where do I fit into this equation? So it's having to take this grief journey to secure myself a spot in this equation where I am happy and joyful and grateful to be here.
Yeah, for sure. God, life is such a journey, isn't it? It's like you just don't know from one day to the next. I mean, here you are, you go on this trip and you've got all these ideas and goals and everything, and then it's this.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a lot to take in. So what was like your very first step when you're like, okay, well, I have to make peace with this? What was your like next step, like right away step?
Yeah, so I think the making peace with it came after the divorce. I mean, I think because things happened so quickly, I like literally froze. I just, got out of my own way is what I was thinking I was doing, but I was just kind of like giving up control. I was just letting things happen the way that they were going to happen, and I wasn't really thinking along the way. So that was one of the first steps that I picked back up, was sort of stepping back into my power and looking around, what choices do I have? What can I do? And so that started to empower me to look at, okay, it might not be my first pick, but at least I have these two options and I can be in control of which one I choose. Right. And so that, like, starting even in small scale was really, really empowering for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that for sure. Just one thing to kind of give that sense of control back. Because I don't know about you, but I know for me that just anybody telling me something I can't do does not go well. I've never been real good with that, so I'm not really sure. It might have taken me longer. I don't know, but I don't like that. And that's something that's, but I can also see what you're saying, like, gosh, but if something is going to be told, okay, well, you got to do this, but God, there's so many good too, that, yeah.
And so the other part of that was taking my responsibility for how that unfolded, because I made a choice to give birth to the kids in the country. So therefore I have to forgive myself for my responsibility in that and acknowledge and accept my responsibility. And that helps alleviate that victim mentality, consciously or unconsciously, because we can carry that in a way we're not aware of. Just choose from there.
Yeah. So you made that decision, you got the divorce, and then we're going to take a break in a moment, but was that just kind of a sense of peace, like able to make better decisions once you kind of let go?
Absolutely. I felt like I was home in my body and my being again. It was really freeing to know that I still have a future in front of me that feels right for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's good. That is good. Yeah. I'm trying to picture myself like, Yeah, for sure. Okay. So we're going to take a break, and then I'd love to talk about just next steps and what you've done,
Absolutely.
since then. Okay. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll be right back with you. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we conquer everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Morgan Rockwell, and we are talking about her journey of going to Portugal for a year, work somewhere different, and ended up staying there, and not because she wanted to. So we left off talking about how you decided to get a divorce, and then a peacefulness came over and you started to build a new life. So what happened from there?
Yeah, I think it was empowering to me to even pick a city and, make these different steps that felt aligned for me. So just finding a city that we're going to go to was the next step for me. And as soon as I decided, like a super miracle happened, like 2 spots in a school opened up for the same school for my boys. And it was just like, it was such a sign that I felt like I could start to rebuild that trust of my intuition. And what I felt was right to go to this city, that happened. I was like, all right, I can listen to myself and trust myself again.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there the same, like certain states have in a divorce or whatever, and mom having kids, is there a certain amount of miles that you can only be from your ex-husband?
No,
Or
no,
that
I really could have, I mean, I could have picked an island off of Portugal that's still considered, Portugal, but the point was I wanted the kids to at least have that relationship with their dad and their grandmother, because it is such a community-based culture and families are very, very close. And which is a little bit different than growing up in America. We're a little bit more independent. And so I wanted them to have both of that sides. And so I'm about 45 minutes from their dad. And so it's a pretty easy way. It's just all freeway to get here. And so it's nice.
That's good. Good. So now that you're in a new place, your kids are in school, what's happening for you? So what have you done to start building a life?
Yeah, so I had to figure out like how to earn income, because obviously my career that I had spent like, I don't know, 12 years to go to school for was no longer valid. And so I didn't know what I was going to do. And while I was here, I was obviously doing anything I could do, teach English online, just random things to bring it in. And I thought, you know what? I might have to just like go out and get a job in an area that I didn't like. But even as a foreigner, it was just a long drawn out process. And I was like, I can't even work here with any hours that work with the school schedule to earn what I can earn. I thought, how can I work online? And so I got into the coaching industry, because it is like the only industry of which you can have an international license and you're covered. And so that like opened a big door for me to use any of my knowledge from my previous training, to start to build a business online.
Awesome. So just a little bit, I guess, in the back of the story, if you're having to stay, how do I put this? I guess, like, isn't there some kind of, I guess, care for you and your kids because you're having to stay?
The madness that I have been through is just shocking. And it shows how their bureaucratical system is a little bit behind the times, because I can't imagine being in the US and having anything like this happening. For example, my residency was based on being married. I was married to a Portuguese citizen. Yes. So a temporary residency up into the 5-year point. And so 5 years I can apply for citizenship. But when that expired, after the pandemic, like the pandemic hit, we got divorced, everything went online. This particular entity went away. I was without papers for almost a year. I was living on an expired tourist visa. And everyone's like, oh, you can't be thrown out of the country. You're not going anywhere. Your boys are here. I was like, yeah, but where's my paper to help me out? I could not go to the bank and get any sort of lending to furnish my house. I could not get a credit card from IKEA to help me. It was like, it all had to come out of savings. And so it really added to the pressure of me not being really happy about the situation, because I was not being provided for. My kids were no problem. They're Portuguese citizens. Me, I was like nobody. So it's still been a process to get all of that untangled. So that really just set my sights on how can I work outside of this bureaucratical nightmare, because there's so much red tape that makes zero sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And I'm not the only person affected by it. I hear this from expats very regularly. It's a system they're trying to figure out. They're updating it. I think a lot of holes have been highlighted and they're trying to fix it. And I think in a few years, it's going to be just fine. But for time being, somebody like me, I absolutely fell through the crack. And it was really devastating for me, and emotionally, and just feeling, it reinforced that feeling of being entirely alone. and it was not a fun sensation.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Would oh my God, sorry. Would the family that doesn't only happen at the first time in 2 years I've been doing this. Um, what about his family? And I'm obviously they love the kids, and I'm sure they care about you. Would they be helping too? I mean,
They were able to help certain things, like they were able to be like a guarantor that I was, not just a foreigner, like I wasn't just a digital nomad. I actually had a process here. And so it helped me get into a house. You really need to have a Portuguese person behind you if you are not Portuguese in order to secure even a rental agreement. So they stepped up and assisted me with that. Which was a big ask because they were not very happy and supportive of the divorce. But at the end of the day, like they did it for their for their grandchildren and for the boys. So I'm really appreciative of that, because otherwise I would be like really stuck like Chuck. So I was grateful for that. And of course, anytime I need they can watch the boys, they can be with them. They go every other weekend. Or if there's like a special occasion and they want some extra time, like we've worked it to it's like flexible. If they want some more time, they can have some more time. And it's created its own flow. And the bottom line is the boys are like totally thriving and happy, and they don't feel like anything is amiss in their life. So that's what matters for me the most.
yeah, the younger they are too, they're just the more resilient they are in that sense, especially when there's flow and they feel the love. I mean, that's what matters.
Totally. And I noticed a huge difference of them being even more resilient and happy the better state that I was in. And so I felt very reaffirmed that I made the right decision, because it's such a question, right? Do we divorce? Do we stay together for the kids? It's something that I hear from so many women and men that are contemplating it. What do you do about the kids? And for me, I had to take the risk, and I was rewarded with their well-being being top, because my state of well-being is so much improved.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I went through my divorce, and I raised my kids by myself for 3 years before I remarried. And I remember a doctor telling me that, if soccer isn't quite convenient for you, or if dance isn't quite convenient for you, and you're working, you're doing all the things for the kids, if you need to cut back some things, you got to do that. Because if you're so unhappy and so stressed, they're going to feel all of it. And it's just not good at all. So
it's not. That's great advice. And it's not going to make their experience, like if it's dance or if it's, soccer, it's not going to make their experience that event any better, because they know mom's just like out of her mind with stress about it. They're going to have a really bad experience with that too.
Yeah.
So it's really, really good advice.
I think so too. And some of us, me, takes a little bit longer to get that, because you want everything for your kids, and you just, and it's just, sometimes it's better to just sit on the couch with them and watch a movie or something, so you can all just kind of
come down. And it's true. And it's also a lot of like unprogramming I've had to do growing up. Considering yourself first was considered selfish, or you do things for other people and that's just what you do. And so we aren't really taught what is self-care on a deep level, and where boundaries for ourselves are just as important for other people. And so that was a big learning curve for me.
Yeah, unlearning. It's a big thing, isn't it?
It's a real thing. It's a big thing.
Yeah, and just sitting back and just thinking, okay, ask yourself, is it true? Really? Is what I'm believing right now true? Is this my feeling of this, or is this just something that was put in my head? That's been so many things. I mean, you could think about everything from self-care to a money mindset, or, anything like that. Is like, is this true?
Absolutely. 100%. And questioning it and what it looks like for you. And even if it was true for you 6 months ago, 6 years ago, it might not be still true for you today. So I've really found in this process, really checking in about my beliefs and my values. What are, how are they organized? Are they really serving me? Are they really aligned for what my goals and vision are for my family, the three of us, and how we want that to go? And I found that to be also like a really helpful exercise.
Yes, absolutely. And it's something we should do often,
Mhm.
especially our values, going over them and just seeing how things change over the years. I remember also when I was pregnant with my first child, and one of my coworkers, just saying, she goes, and she was probably a good 15, 20 years older than me. And she was saying, she goes, you're going to realize one day how insignificant this is and that is as life goes on. And it's so true. Just the things that you were just so upset about, even as a 20-year-old compared to 30s, 40s. Oh my gosh, what a difference. You don't worry about things quite as much.
It's true. It's really true. And it's helpful to have those people in our life to pass that wisdom on, and to really make us check in and to think about it and to really see the difference. I definitely know in my 40s, things are completely different than they were in their 20s and even in my 30s. So
Yeah, it's interesting to kind of review your journey, isn't it?
it
Whoa.
is
Yeah.
so many nuggets of wisdom.
Yeah, so many things you would stress on or whatever. And I just think about my own kids sometime, and I'm ahead of you. My youngest is 18, and I just think, gosh, some of the things that he worries about, or some of the things my girls worry about, they're very, 22 and 24. And I'm like, oh gosh, yes, it's definitely real to you. And it's all inside of you. Everything that's going on with you is absolutely valid. And oh my gosh, someday you're going to see, it's like, what a difference of, yeah, just even the drama in life, what a difference. It's a whole set of different drama when you get older. But, oh
I think
man.
your world gets more expansive, in your 20s, everything is there. Your world is so tightly, intensely close to you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly it. So we are going to take a break again, and we'll come back and just talk about next phases and what and who you work with now, if that sounds good to you. Okay.
Sounds wonderful.
We'll be
Looking
right
forward.
back, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we conquer everything and compromise nothing. My guest today, Morgan Rockwell. We've been talking about her journey of living in Portugal and making a new life for herself. So, Morgan, after you've found a place of acceptance that you're going to be here, and you are starting a new life with your children, have a good relationship with your ex-husband and the family, everybody's happy. What did you Well, after you come to this point of, okay, I'm good and things are rolling along, I've got a good place, my boys are set in a good school, I'm doing good. What was next for you after looking, okay, I'm going to start looking for online work and coaching? What was next?
Yeah, so really building that business up and just kind of getting to know Portugal in a different way, because
Mhm.
my experience with being here was always tied to being married and different, things around that. So trying to explore my relationship here in this new city, getting to know
Mhm.
the different areas, finding maybe some different hobbies, things that I like. You kind of go back to the drawing board and like, what really fulfills me now in the area of fun and leisure, what really fulfills me now in terms of success and business. And so kind of reevaluating all of that. And I've really gotten to know the city, and I'm really keen to like put some roots down. I would love to have my little place in the corner of the world. Like I feel like
Yeah.
that has been missing, and I have been floating for so long. Even though I was married, it was like in his house, his family's house that he purchased. And I never felt like I had that in here. I have these two beautiful little boys. So I want that. So that's on my radar this year. It's over the next year. How can I create my own little place.
Mm-hmm. Mm. That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, having that little own, yeah, there's definitely something about that. Just your own little place in the world for sure.
Yeah, and it really just hit me like I was ready to be here. And I think I had avoided doing it up into the point where I really just was like, okay, now I'm ready. And so I'm really wanting to bring in, how big and beautiful can that be? How expansive can that be? How fulfilling can I create this little place for me and them?
Yeah, that's awesome. So as you're building your business, what are you learning about you? Like, who do you want to serve in all the experience that you've had and what you've learned so far?
So I've totally flipped out of working in integrative medicine, and I'm working exclusively in mending broken hearts because it's such a journey. Like broken hearts, from my experience, don't happen overnight. And so neither do mending them. And really going back in time to figure out those old stories, perhaps, or those old false beliefs, like how are they playing into situations that keep showing up in your life that maybe aren't so fulfilling, that are maybe heartbreaking. And so I've learned so much through my own personal journey. And regardless of what life event brought someone to a broken heart, I have seen so many patterns of how it affects people. And so I've really dove into niching into working in that area.
Hmm. Well, there's a lot of need for that. There are, oh man, there's some of the stories, some of the things that I've heard, not only on this show, but just in my own coaching practice,
Mhm.
what we go through and the pain. Um, oh boy, it's something. Sometimes I just wonder how somebody can take so much, certain losses. And just, I mean, I can just go over my own self, just losing like everybody but my dad in my life. They're gone, all my siblings, everybody. And um it hurts. I mean, it's just something like it, it hurts. And it's like, sometimes you wonder, it's like, why did
Mhm.
they have to go, and why am I, is it just me and my dad? And and he's missing all these people too. So it's like, why do these things happen? So um when people come to you, what and how do you work with them?
So I'm an Akashic Records practitioner.
Okay.
Was one of that was my way to turn in and rebuild that trust in my intuition and rebuild that trust in myself. And so I really wanted like the next baby step. For me, it was way too overwhelming to look at the end possible picture because there was way too many scenarios in between
Yeah.
how badly I was suffering and what it was going to look like. And so the records showed up in time and place for me to be able to use them as like a life tool and access the beautiful knowledge and what is my next step. And so I work with people in the exact same place, meet them right where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they're deciding to, should I divorce? Should I stay? I've lost so many people in my family. Why? What is happening? Right where they're at, what's the next step that they can take where they can feel less suffering and eventually to, open their heart again and reconnect that source of love internally. So it's a really beautiful tool to work with people.
You might share what it is. I have many friends who practice, but it would be good for the audience to know.
Absolutely. So the Akashic Records are an it's an energetic realm of infinite possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can seek guidance in any and all areas. Like you had mentioned before, you can look at money patterns, you can look at beliefs or false beliefs. And someone like you who has suffered so much loss, you can go in and look at ancestral patterns that came in, maybe ancestral trauma, different timelines, why the souls of your lineage signed up to transition so soon, and why you did not and your father did not. Is there healing that can take place around that? Is there something that your soul is going to learn from that? Those type of things. And it doesn't change the fact that those souls have transitioned or you're lost, but it gives you a peace of mind, maybe as to why, and you can get some healing around that. So it's not so raw. Your past loved ones also reside in the Akashic records. So when working from this realm, you can receive messages from them, you can receive love from them, you can get some closure around it. And I love having this ability to work with others who have been through so much loss, that you give them that chance to reconnect with their energy again and hear some messages from them.
Yeah, it's a wonderful tool. I have a friend who, she doesn't practice as much as she used to, but it's really cool. Cool tool. How did you come to notice it, or even like, did somebody mention it to you, or it just kind of come to you, like psychic
I've
abilities?
always been interested in the records when I was little. I was really connected to my intuition when I was young, and it just kind of faded off over time. In my 20s, again, I picked back up looking, trying to like poke around with the records. But again, it was like at that time, it was not something you could like earn a living doing. So
Right.
it was, part of your yoga practice type of thing, and
Yeah.
or, spiritual practice. And that was that. But I came across a teacher who's my mentor, and I saw that she teaches people to access the records, and it was the right time in the right place. And it showed up, and it was like, ding, 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 this is it.
Yeah.
Because I was in a place, I was calling people, I was asking for their opinions, and like nobody's advice was settling with me because I wasn't listening to that voice inside of me. And this is where I was like, you know what? This can come from within. This is me and my guardians, my masters, my teachers, my loved ones. We're going to sort this out. I'm going to be the one to do it. And I think that's part of my personality. Like I had to do it for myself.
Yeah.
And it's not everyone's. And so when it came calling, I was like, yes, this is it.
So yeah, that must be cool just to be able to help others with that. But isn't it, I guess I think what makes any coach really good is curiosity. And I've got a really curious mind, and so do you, I can tell. So isn't it kind of cool to go in and just find out all this information and put pieces together?
It's so cool. And it has absolutely been my lifeline through all of this transformation and transition, giving me pieces to look at, even if they were painful and scary and I didn't want to look at them. They did help me shift to that curiosity mindset, because that's when you can really start to heal and mend something. So, and yeah, it's just been so wonderful. And I love teaching other people to get curious, and you can do that by channeling a message. It has opened my spiritual gifts so much. I'm a medium. So when those people come through, it really shifts them into hope, into belief, and you can shift them into curiosity much faster with this tool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, how do you start, I guess, with people? Like, I guess it's got to be the right people. That's the way I should say it. It's got to be the right people, because some people are a little like, well, it's a little bit weird or whatever. So it has to be the right people. But I think you could probably approach it just like other things,
Totally.
certain coaching techniques that some people might think, oh, that's a little weird. But as long as you say it right.
Yeah. And I think education and connection is important. So I do a lot of free things. I do a lot of free healings. I run a lot of free master classes, like how heartbreak can be an opportunity for your soul's evolution. Right. And so then I'll teach that for 3 days. And obviously talking how the Akashic records, I'm very open about it and natural as I'm channeling and talking, and I just fold it right in there. And then I can, do a one-off session for people so they can get the experience of how I coach, what the Akashic records can do for them, and then kind of transition from there. But I try and do a lot of free things when people get curious and come in. That curiosity is a good hook.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right. So why don't you tell people where they can find you, and just I guess what is the what lights you up when you just think about the whole service that you provide, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it lights me up to reconnect people with hope and a source of love they have either lost or have never known. And we just all have this beautiful well inside of us. And that's why I do what I do, because it saved my life and it kept me in hope. So
Yeah.
I have my website, morganrockwell.com. All my free stuff happens on Facebook, Morgan Rockwell 111.
Okay, excellent. Okay. So we're going to take a break, everyone, and then I'd like to come back and I would love to just talk about like when you reach a point, like everybody's going to have a different story. Like mine's different than yours, but we've been through a lot of different things. What steps can you take to get to a place of, okay, I can do this, you know, because sometimes it's just, I remember just feeling sometimes like I'm just, God could take me today, you know,
Totally.
I have been there. So we'll be right back, everyone, and we'll see you in a few. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we conquer everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Morgan Rockwell, and we have been talking about, well, the most recent segment was about Akashic Records, but her journey of hope of finding herself in a foreign country and being stuck there, basically, and the life she's made for herself up until now. So, Morgan, for somebody who might be in a really rough place right now, going through a journey, whatever it could be something similar to you, being in a place where she doesn't have a lot of choices. It could be a loss of a loved one. It could be a divorce. It could be so many different things, you know, that we go through in our lives. What would you say is a good place for people to start healing?
Being, I don't say like honest, but just really accepting where you're at, and no, be so hard on yourself. I remember moments of being in the situation I was suffering, and I just felt like I just screwed everything up, and it was not helpful. And so really taking the blame, and nothing, it's not your fault. Like really have to just allow yourself some space to suspend judgment and to give yourself that grace, and that space around you is going to start to lessen the suffering, so you can figure out what next step it is that you can take towards your healing.
Yeah. So when you with your journey, it was just okay, making a decision. What would you say to someone, just even randomly, someone maybe you'll meet on the beach tomorrow, who just comes to you and notices you and the kids playing and just like, gosh, I have so much going on right now, and I wish I could feel the way you look like you are playing with your kids. Like, what would you say to somebody like that?
Yeah, it's listen. Like we get so much noise, you need to clear the noise, because we know what we need to do or what we want to do. We often don't give ourselves permission to feel that way or to do it. And we can place a lot of noise around what we should be doing, what somebody would think is better for us, and really to check back into that inner voice. I always turn people back internally, because we all have intuition. It's a matter of listening to it, understanding what it's saying, and feeling empowered, courageous, whatever word you want to say, enough to know that your intuition is enough to listen to. You don't have to have reason. You don't have to have an excuse. It's okay just to listen to it.
Yeah, I've noticed too that the more that I do listen, the more information I get. And when you start to trust yourself, there's just a feeling inside yourself like, okay, like your body responds to you like, okay, she's listening.
Yeah,
Fine.
it's true. Finally. Yeah. And some of the points along my own journey that were most heartbreaking wasn't any mistreatment or somebody else's actions. It was the fact that my intuition told me something and I ignored it. And it caused a lot of suffering. And so you do gain that momentum when you start to listen. Your body's like, yeah, she's on board, she's doing it. And you'll start to get more information about what that next step is. And one of my absolute mantras in this state of like total confusion because it was so hard to even get to the point that I realized I had to make a decision was, okay, show me the next step in a way that I can see and in a way that I have courage to do it. So it was like asking for a very baby step to show up that I could understand and that I was brave enough to do at that moment in time.
Yeah, that's really, I like that. Just something small. And even just taking that small step just fuels you to think about another one. Okay, it's like if I could just get through another 15, 20 minutes and then I can, sometimes even to me, I've heard so many clients in their journey, especially grief journey, just like, okay, I just another 15 minutes, another half hour, another hour, another day. And the more that you keep going, the better it does get. I don't think grief is ever anything that you get over or
and that's a
there's
very
no
valid
time.
point. Like, don't hold yourself to the standard that it's something you need to get over or need to let go of, because that is going to create a really friction, like a lot of friction with this relationship with grief. And so turning to tools that work for you, getting those small steps, getting through those 15 minutes, the next hour, those few days, and whatever tools you need to do that is what you should turn to, rather than that thought of, I need to get over this. I should be doing, I shouldn't be grieving. I shouldn't be crying anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, those shoulds, right?
So challenging.
Yeah. I mean, I have a colleague who she had lost her husband and been through so many different things. And she still, I mean, it's only been a year since her husband died, but she gives herself permission, like when she knows when an anniversary is coming up or when something special is coming up, she'll just usually rent an Airbnb or something, get out of her space and go somewhere. And it's like, okay, we've got 2 days. We're going to do whatever we want, whether that's cry the whole weekend or whatever it is, we're going to do it. But then when that's over, we're done. We're going to get back to life. And doesn't mean we can't have more of that time, but that's what we're having for now. I think that's also very
I love
helpful.
that. Yeah, it's allowing that really healthy outlet. She knows it's around a time that's going to be very triggering for her, very emotional, very difficult. So she's created a plan and a way that works for her. And I feel like everybody needs to have something, a self-care action plan. When something is going to come up, have those things in place so you can follow those steps, because when you get caught up in grief or in emotion, you don't necessarily think so clearly. At least I didn't. So by having that kind of plan in place was really helpful. That structure just kind of supported me.
Yeah. I even have I've shared with my clients a few times. I even have, like, if it's a day, I'm usually, because I work from home, I'm the one who gets dinner together and all that. But if it's been a date, we get takeout and I don't even worry about it. It's just like getting to a place where it's like I've got these just little things in place for like I said, the takeout menu or whatever it is for get something quickly, or if it's like just getting outside for 20 minutes. I mean, just doing something that
and it's
brings you
so important to
back to
give
life.
yourself permission to not have to do everything.
Yeah.
Like, we hold ourselves to this standard, or at least I was, really fighting being to this standard. Well, I need my boys need to have a home cooked meal every night, and the house needs to be spotless and all of this. And like, I've really had to let a lot of those things go. So we have way more quality and less like quantity of stuff.
Yeah, I remember this one post I wrote several years ago. I want to be that perfect mom that grows all the vegetables outside in the garden and all these cooked meals. And I hate cooking. I am not somebody who loves that. I have very basic meals. It's not me.
No, but honestly, it's such a powerful step, right? So here you're not punishing yourself doing all these things that you wanted to be, but you really are miserable. Like, that's not fun.
Exactly. So we're not all going to be this version of whatever, we all are all who we are, and we have our special gifts. So I thank you so much for being here today. It's been an awesome show. And before we end, where can everybody find you? And what's your just like your last piece of advice for someone who is hurting?
Yeah, don't lose hope. There's always hope that there is ease of suffering and there is ease through grief. There is always a next step that you can take. It's out there.
Yes, absolutely. So where can they find you and work with you?
Yeah, again, my website is morganrockwell.com, and where a lot of the free action happens is on my Facebook page. So on Facebook, you can just search the username Morgan Rockwell 111.
Yes, and check her out for Akashic Records, because even though we haven't done this together, I know the benefit of it, and it's just so cool. It just really is. Just to gain the information about you and ancestors, and just very helpful information that's actually really surprising sometimes, but in such a beautiful way. Yeah. So thank you again. And I know I'll be talking to you soon. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And remember, every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. And if you have a story of transformation and would like to be on the show, please reach out to me or the station. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to Transformation with Martine, real, raw, and vulnerable conversations. Listen or watch live every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on transformationtalkradio.com as Martine and her guests have deep, meaningful conversations, sharing empowering stories. Step into your passions and lead with your heart. If you are ready to accept and love you for you, visit martineemmons.com and start allowing transformation to happen today.